All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Have you ever actually stopped to wonder how our earliest ancestors looked at the world around them? We tend to assume that without modern science, they just walked around in a state of constant confusion, right? Just naive superstition. But when you really look at the structure of their beliefs, this profoundly complex, almost beautiful system emerges. It's a system that turns ordinary survival into an epic cosmic drama. So today we're going to unlock that primitive mind and see exactly how early humans interacted with reality itself.
Our journey today is guided directly by the groundbreaking analysis found in Mircea Eliade's definitive text, Patterns in Comparative Religion. This book is an absolute cornerstone if you want to understand the history of human belief. And Eliade makes a really compelling point right out of the gate. You cannot just slap a modern psychological or economic label on ancient religious phenomena and call it a day. You've got to look at them on their own terms, completely within their own specific framework.
So, to truly understand our ancestors, we have to start by asking a question that requires a massive perspective shift. How is it that a group of early humans could look at a perfectly ordinary stone or a tree and see within it the literal power of the divine? Like, how does a basic physical object become a gateway to the absolute?
Well, as the source text warrants, we absolutely cannot judge these ancient beliefs by looking at them through a modern microscopic lens. Eliade uses a brilliant analogy here. Think about it. If a scientist studies an elephant solely under a microscope, looking only at its individual cells, would they really understand what an elephant actually is? Of course not. The scale matters. To understand ancient religion, we have to zoom way out and grasp it at the level of the sacred, rather than just brushing it off as some weird sociological quirk.
Section 1. The sacred and the profane. The core dichotomy of human experience.
The absolutely crucial point here is understanding this universal divide, the everyday, profane world versus the transcendent, powerful realm of the sacred. For early humans, the profane is the realm of ordinary, secular daily life. It's the mundane acts of just getting by. Think of it like this. The profane is the mud on your feet, while the sacred is the lightning bolt splitting the sky. The sacred is extraordinary, it's powerful, eternal, and completely other. But here's the catch. These two worlds aren't totally walled off from one another.
Section 2. The anatomy of a hierophany, how the ordinary becomes divine. So, how do those two worlds interact? This brings us to a massive concept called a hierophany. Basically, it's when something entirely mundane suddenly becomes a vehicle for blinding divine power. We're talking about a stone, a tree, maybe a certain rhythm of the seasons. It's that exact moment the universe shifts and something that usually belongs to the everyday world is suddenly chosen to reveal the infinite.
And there's a fascinating sequence to this, a dialectic. First, you have the mundane object, just sitting exactly as it always has. Next, you have the manifestation, where the sacred essentially chooses this specific object to reveal itself. And finally, you get the result, which is a profound paradox. The object has been singled out from everything around it and fundamentally changed, even though its physical appearance remains exactly the same.
Let's really lean into that ultimate paradox for a second. The object physically remains ordinary, but structurally it becomes a piece of the absolute. To the primitive mind, a venerated stone is still a piece of granite you can physically touch. Its properties haven't mutated, but it has acquired an entirely new dimension. It ceased to be merely a rock and has become a manifestation of ultimate reality. It essentially bridges that massive gap between the eternal and the temporary.
But we do have to ask ourselves, if the sacred is so incredibly powerful, isn't it also immensely dangerous? I mean, if the divine suddenly drops right into your everyday life, that's not just awe-inspiring, it's honestly terrifying.
Section 3. The power and the taboo. The danger of the divine. You see, early humans often experienced what are called hierophanies. These flashes of raw, unexplainable power that just totally disrupted the natural order. While a hierophany is a manifestation of the sacred, a hierophany is specifically a manifestation of intense, almost radioactive power. Think about it. When a primitive hunter had a dog that was unnaturally lucky and never ever missed its prey, they didn't just throw a party to celebrate. They were terrified. That level of perfection isn't natural. It's a concentrated burst of frightening power.
Because these hierophanies are so incredibly dangerous, societies literally built taboos around them, like caution tape. They physically isolated anything unusual, novel, or bursting with power. For example, in Central Celebes, if a pumpkin bore twin fruits, or a banana appeared right in the middle of a stalk, it was seen as deeply ill-omened because it broke the natural order. The dead, or even new technologies like iron, were completely cordoned off. Or consider rulers. Some kings were so supercharged with sacred power that they weren't even allowed to let their feet touch the ground, just in case that raw, unfiltered power destroyed the earth beneath them.
So, this creates a profound ambivalence. Humanity is constantly pulled toward the sacred for survival, but repelled by the terrifying fear of being destroyed by it. It's a very delicate, high-stakes balancing act. You absolutely need the power of the sacred to ensure your crops actually grow and your hunts are successful. But you have to approach it with intense caution, carefully navigating through all these rituals and taboos so you aren't obliterated by an ontological upheaval, basically a complete shattering of your reality.
Which brings us to a widely misunderstood concept in early human belief. We often hear the word magic and picture some kind of invisible, floating electricity that primitive people just tried to randomly harness. But the reality? The reality is much more structured.
Section 4. The real meaning of mana. The power of being.
See, mana isn't just some random floating magic. It's a specific power granted by spirits to make things highly effective. Early anthropologists initially thought of mana as a blind, impersonal force, but the texts show us that no one actually possesses this force strictly by themselves. If a boat is incredibly fast, or a warrior is unmatched in battle, or an arrow always hits its mark, it possesses mana. It's a dynamic, creative perfection bestowed by higher beings or ancestors.
The crucial takeaway here is that having mana simply means an object or person exists fully and completely on the plane of reality. Whatever exists fully, perfectly, and effectively possesses mana. It is an ontological reality, meaning it deals with the very nature of being. To have mana is to be anchored in ultimate reality, safely away from the fragile, meaningless void of normal life. So the distinction for them wasn't about personal versus impersonal magic, it was literally about existence versus non-existence.
Section 5. The majesty of the sky, the universal canvas.
Let's apply everything we've talked about to the most universal canvas of early humans. The sky doesn't even need a myth to be sacred. Its mere height, its infinite space, and those rolling thunderstorms automatically force a realization of transcendent power. Just contemplating the vast, unreachable vault of heaven produces a profound religious experience. Because it is infinitely high, inaccessible, and unchanging, it perfectly symbolizes absolute reality. It's where the supreme creator beings naturally dwell, throwing down lightning to enforce moral laws and providing the life-giving rain that guarantees the Earth's fertility.
Looking up was humanity's very first realization of supreme majesty. As this incredible testimony from the African Iwe tribe brilliantly captures, there where the sky is, God is too. The sky is the ultimate other. It is completely detached from the tiny, fragile span of human life down here on Earth. Ascending toward the sky, whether through ritual or myth, meant leaving behind the human state and approaching the absolute.
Section 6. The complexity of early religion, beyond simple magic.
So what should you really take away from this explainer regarding the ancient mind? We've journeyed through hierophanies, taboos, the true nature of mana, and the sheer majesty of the sky. Far from being simple or superstitious, primitive religion was actually an incredibly complex attempt to connect every single daily action with ultimate reality. Early humans didn't view eating, hunting, or agriculture as just physical necessities to get through the day. They treated them as profound sacraments. By performing these actions according to divine, mythical archetypes, they were trying to wedge themselves into being. They were fighting off the meaninglessness of the profane world by constantly, intentionally inviting the sacred right into their daily lives.
And I want to leave you with this to ponder. As we go about our highly secular, busy days, have we completely forgotten how to see the sacred hidden within the ordinary? Our ancestors built entire worlds of meaning by looking at stones, storms, and the sky. They transformed simple survival into a profound connection with the universe. Perhaps, in our modern drive to explain away the magic of reality, we've lost touch with that incredibly powerful primitive mind. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and remember, keep questioning the world around you.